Hey guys, so I know it's been a minute since our last We Who Wrestle With God book review. We're really getting in the heart of things here. We do have some other stuff that we're putting up on the channel for you guys specifically. I delve into a little bit of Carl Jung. We're doing some critical examinations of Jordan Peterson. We actually got another Jordan Peterson video coming out shortly. It should be around by the time this video gets posted. So we're really wanting to interact with you guys. We're wanting to add value. And so these book reviews will keep coming, but we do have supplementary material that you guys should probably check out. I'm going to mute my phone real quick. So jumping right into We Who Wrestle With God, I actually have to say that this chapter, and I didn't expect to, but I actually disagree with Jordan Peterson to some degree. So he starts off by saying that we left off with Cain murdering Abel, and Seth replaces Abel. So Adam and Eve bear a son, Seth. He replaces Abel. And Jordan Peterson is going to say that David and eventually the Messianic promise, Jesus, they come from Seth's line. And so, in a sense, the spirit that Abel embodied lives on, while the spirit that Cain embodied, this murderous spirit that we talked about last time, in a very large way doesn't live on. And so that's all fine and dandy. I don't disagree with any of that. But the next section Jordan Peterson moves into is entitled Giants in the Land. And in case you don't know, Von Franz deals with this archetype. So she was kind of a protege of Jung. She ran in the same circles as Jung and Newman. She's a Jungian psychologist. She talks about giants in the land and what that means in this book, The Interpretations of Fairy Tales. It's an easy read. I really enjoyed it. I may post something about it one day, I may not, but I would encourage you guys to check that out. Very easy read. Gives you a great insight into some Jungian psychology. But Jordan Peterson, I was anxious to see how he addressed it because it's a very Jungian sort of idea, giants living on Earth or giants in the land. And of course, Jordan Peterson opens up the opportunity for them to have been fallen angels. Like he mentions that. In case you don't know who this guy is, and I'll try to be nice because unfortunately he passed away, but his whole online niche was angels came down, had sex with females, and made giants, right? Made these Nephilim that Genesis 6:4 specifically talks about. And it's interesting. When I was like 16, I was just obsessed with the idea and thought about it and tried to identify different people who were Nephilim or whatever. I don't think that anymore. I think that's probably a misreading of Genesis, right? And Jordan Peterson doesn't think that either. So what does Jordan Peterson think? He thinks that this is a form of ancestor worship. And it's funny, actually, that I clicked on this screen. I really didn't mean to do this, but we talk about in our How North Korea has made super soldiers video, how there still is sort of this form of like Shinto ancestor worship, where you have, figures like Kim Jong-un, or originally in the Shinto religion in Japan, the emperor was said to be a sort of god. And this, was ancestor worship. This was really common back in the day. You look at like Roman emperors, and Jordan Peterson specifically mentions this, but Roman emperors were revered as gods. And so this idea of giants in the land, Jordan Peterson actually quotes Mircea Eliade, which, if you haven't read his work, very good. But the quote says, the process of ancestor worship is divinized or transformed into a god. And so, I mean, we see that in some sense, right? But Jordan Peterson thinks that that's what these Nephilim in Genesis 6:4 talk about. He thinks it's a sort of ancestor worship, which I don't necessarily disagree with that, right? But then he says, one, that this happened because there was a recognition of something sacred in the ancestor. And so that's kind of a weird statement, in my opinion, because you look at someone like Kim Jong-un, for example. Is there something like, holy in him? Maybe. You look at other people who are deified. Hitler, in some ways. Some of the Caesars who weren't great, right? So I don't know if I'm necessarily going to agree with that idea, but it's interesting. It's one that Jordan Peterson puts forward. And, like, is this what happened? You think of monotheistic religions, and Jordan Peterson says that eventually the ancestor worship becomes so, you know, fervent that the ancestor becomes a god, and then eventually the god just replaces the ancestor, right? And so we lose ancestor worship. So he kind of hints at this as a sort of possibility, but then he says the one line that I really disagree with: Noah is one such giant. He says that on page 159 of his book here. And that is one I'm really going to take issue with, because in no way does the Bible describe Noah as a giant, right? Actually, there's this real sense in which giants are cursed by God, right? The flood comes to wipe out the giants, for one, right? And after the flood, you see giants again, the Amalekites, David and Goliath. The giants are always represented as enemies to the people of God, not as figures to be revered in any sort of sense. And so to associate Noah as a sort of giant, I thought was a little strange. But we'll leave off on that. We'll give Jordan Peterson credit where he is due. He's not a theologian. I am. I have a theology degree. So we'll pursue this more. I want to really get into chapter 4 here, and I want to do it justice. I will have the second part of this out for you guys within a week. I do promise you that. In the meantime, enjoy our other content. Enjoy our Jordan Peterson video coming out. Please like and share this, guys. This book series isn't getting as much traction originally, and so sharing it really helps. We really want to get this out to as many people as possible so that we know to keep doing it. So if you enjoyed, please share, please comment. As always, I love hearing from you guys. And until next time, Muzz out.